Hello and welcome back. My name's Nicole Bandis and we are here for another Crochet Swatch Saturday. Today we are going to be reviewing the Yarn Bee Tender Touch. Now this is a chunkier yarn than we normally review, so should be interesting. Let's flip it over and have some fun. Okay, so I have actually had some of this Tender Touch that I used on another project, and I'm trying to remember what project that was. We're going to go ahead and swatch it up. Now, this is a bulky weight yarn, and I got to tell you, on first touch, this feels like it's supposed to feel soft, but it's not quite as soft as what I would hope for. So it's kind of surprisingly less soft than I would expect. Just kind of an interesting observation overall. We're going to go ahead and get started here with our partially used skein, since we've got that. Now you can see that there's actually some purple fuzz on there. That is from being in my stash, so it does have a tendency to attract some extra little things here and there, which may dramatically affect whether or not you want to use this. I mean, it feels like it would make a really, really wonderful scarf or hat that would be super cozy, or even a cardigan. We are using a 6.5 millimeter hook for our swatches today. Based on our label, it says use a 6 millimeter hook over here, but over here it says 6.5 millimeter. I went ahead and grabbed the 6.5 millimeter because both are actually listed right there. You can see I went ahead and grabbed the 6.5 millimeter. I'm good with that. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. It is OEKO Tex standard, so that's a good thing. It is sold by Hobby Lobby and made in Turkey. All right, so let's go ahead and continue with this. When you get this yarn, you get 135 yards, which is 85 grams. So it's not the largest skein on the planet, which is kind of typical for a fluffier yarn, some of the heavier, chunkier yarns. You know what? I think I know what I use this for. I use this for an amigurumi dinosaur. And I was looking for very, very specific colors to match a dinosaur lovey that my nephew had, and it was getting so much love that they wanted a kind of another version of it that he could also love on. So it had to match that as closely as possible, and this was the only yarn in the colors that would adequately match that I had access to, that met the qualifications, right? Because you gotta meet all the qualifications. So that's what I used this yarn for. And I think it ended up making a very nice amigurumi overall. I don't do a lot of amigurumi, and the ones that I have done, I've always sort of had a little bit of a kind of vibe, because I'm just not that good at them. But I think it turned out okay on that regard. And they have not mentioned that it's had a lot of wear, so that's also good to know that it is an amigurumi that definitely gets some use, and yet they haven't come to me and said that he's worn down, or, you know, could I make another one because it's not looking very good again? None of that. So that is kind of a good sign overall, for sure. For those of you that are new, I didn't break this down at the beginning, but we're going to do a single crochet and a double crochet swatch, 120 stitches total, and 60 stitches for each swatch. And then I will give you my review, and I've narrowed these reviews down to be as objective as possible. There's always some subjectivity in there. And, that's okay because the reviews, I started out doing them for my own benefit, and I'm glad that some of you can get some benefit from them too. But I also encourage you to stay tuned for the whole thing rather than skipping to the timestamp, because you get to hear some of my fun feedback. And that, I think, helps you to do your own sort of assessment as I'm going through. You are more than welcome to kind of rate it yourself based on my input and what you've heard me share overall. Ugh, this is getting all tangled. I hate it when that happens because the center pull is wanting to come out. And just so you know, I have fun on these. They're not all very specific, like, well, highly edited so that all of the fun stuff gets taken out of. I like to have fun. So if that's the kind of thing that you enjoy, then I hope you stick along for the ride. If not, go ahead and skip to the end till you get to the nuts and bolts. This yarn is in the colorway Sage. And when I was reading the reviews on this, I read some of them ahead of time, and I'm trying to remember now what those said. I'll get back to you in just a minute because I have to review those. As soon as I finish this row, I'll review those and let you know kind of what is out there in the world as far as the reviews on this yarn goes. All right, so that is 3 rows of 20 so that we have a good review. So the reviews on Ravelry, this yarn got about 4-ish stars. And what the biggest feedback, I saw various feedbacks. A lot of people said it was super pleasant to work with. It was very nice and that it had some good stitch definition initially, but that it got fuzzy pretty quickly, and that made it very, kind of not so great overall in the long run. So if you want a yarn that has more longevity, this might not be the best yarn overall for that purpose. It's good to know, for sure. Now, if you have it for something that's like a nice cozy hat or, something like that, maybe it's not a bad yarn. There's definitely quite a fuzzy halo to start with, and usually that indicates that it's gonna pill quite a bit and it's gonna have some issues in the long run. Again, I don't think I would have selected this yarn if it weren't for the perfect color match, and that was more important than a lot of the other criteria. Now, this yarn, I don't know, did I mention yet? It is available from Hobby Lobby, and the price point on it is $3.99. One of the things that's nice about that, first of all, I gotta say, the price point has not increased. I bought this yarn over 2 years ago, and it is still listed as $3.99 on the website. So that's kind of a nice thing, is that the price point on it is still the same as it was 2 years ago. And if you're not familiar with Hobby Lobby, every other week, I should say it that way, every other week, Hobby Lobby does a 30% off their yarns special. So it's not usually $3.99 because you can get 30% off of that, which makes it really a good price point overall. It's definitely got some features in it that could be fun for some fluffier amigurumi or even some, like succulents. This would be a really fun sort of cactus project. Because it's got that fuzziness to it, it kind of almost gives Trust me, I live in the desert. There are cactus that look really fuzzy. You don't want to touch them, but they look really soft and fuzzy. They look like they would be a lot of fun to give a hug. And sometimes, even cactuses need a hug. Just be really careful if you're going to do that. It's not the best idea in the world. We're done. It's amazing how much bigger the swatches are when most of my swatches are smaller, and that's because we usually use smaller yarn for sure. But these are fun. It's fun to have some longer ones. All right, let's get out our score sheet. The first one is the fiber content. The fiber content, if it was a luxury brand or a luxury blend or a higher end kind of like a cashmere or a silk or even a merino or a Pima cotton, those all get a higher rating. The low end are the harsh synthetics, the poorly processed fibers, or, kind of those itchy, scratchy, super unpleasant kind of yarns. And this falls into, it's a 100% acrylic. I would not put it as a low-cost acrylic because it does not have that plasticky feel. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into a reliable workhorse. So it's just number 3. Now for the feel. Feel is like number 5 is cloud-like, it's heavenly, and number 1 is like your Red Heart kitchen scrubby kind of. It's definitely a plastic. This is kind of your, I would say, comfy cozy. It is pleasant. It's good for garments. We're not taking into account yet the wearability of it, but it is good for garments. It would feel very nice against the skin. I definitely would enjoy wearing this when I first get it. Color range. Okay, so there are only 12 color options for the Tender Touch, and that is pretty limited. This puts it into the 2 range, which is more than 10, but less than 20. That's where that kind of color range comes in. So it's definitely on the limited. There was 0 splitting, not a single split at all. So that gets the 5. All right, let's talk about some stitch definition. This is definitely, like, you can see the stitches in there. It's not so cloudy that you cannot see where the stitches attach, but there is definitely some haze on both of these because it is that softer kind of fluffier with the halo effect to it. So on that, we're going to say it is, we're going to say a 3. Now for our drape test. This is where we kind of hold it up and we see how much it falls. So for a bulky weight yarn, we expect it to kind of have some rigidity overall. So let's kind of see. That's pretty impressive if you ask me. I mean, it's quite fluid, quite flexible. Even when I lay this down, there's not a lot of curling. There's definitely some, but it's not bad at all. I would not necessarily take this and feel like I have to block it to get it to lay straight. So for drape, we are going to give it a 4. Frogability, you know what? I'm not expecting any issues. It doesn't even hang up on the fuzz at all. So Frogability is a 5 all day long. It is seamless. Washability. This is cold water wash and machine dryable. So that is a win-win. And you can even wash it in lukewarm. Did I say cold water? You can wash it in lukewarm. This says 30, but the information says lukewarm. Usually I thought that was 40. Anyway, it's all good. So we are going to put the washability as pretty bulletproof. Now, and I'll get to the warnings and concerns, is on the washability. So we'll kind of check into that in a minute. Now, price point for this, you get 135 yards. The regular price is $3.99. That would put this in the affordable range. However, because you can actually get this at $2.79 every other week, I am going to inch this into the ultra budget. You know what? We're going to add a benefit to that. So we'll keep it at the regular price, and I just did my math again. I'm wrong. It is actually no. We're going to keep it at the 4, affordable. Okay. I know, I'm all over the place sometimes. You just have to bear with me because that's the way it is. Warnings and concerns. I am definitely concerned about the fuzz and the pill factor that this has the potential for. And because it was mentioned by a couple of different reviewers, I am going to give this a -2 on the warnings and concerns. For bonuses, I am going to give it a +1 because you can get it on sale quite frequently, dropping it down into that ultra budget kind of price range. All right, so let's do our math. Okay, so our total comes up to be 34. And because we take these first 9 factors and divide that, we get a total score of 3.7. That is the score that gets. So that is really pretty average, if you ask me. But I want to ask you, what do you think? Have you ever used the Tender Touch yarn? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you make with it? And is there one that you prefer way more than the Tender Touch? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if there's a yarn that you want me to review, I want to hear about that one too. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on another Crochet Swatch Saturday. Farrah, frog us out of here.